Well, good morning, good afternoon, good night, what have we got? Good evening, did I say? Morning? I missed one of them. I'm sure I did. But anyway, welcome wherever you are joining us from across the lovely world. Thanks so much for joining us here for live for the one and only Serverless Office Hours. We are streaming on the AWS Twitch channel and also on the AWS Events YouTube channel. We are live, so please send us your questions and your comments. We love to hear where you're from. It really shows our sort of global serverless world. So yeah, please let us know where you are watching from. I'm Julian Wood. I'm a developer advocate here at AWS, and we have a stellar cast. I promise you, it's going to be a super interesting stream today. Everybody is new on Serverless Office Hours, which is amazing. I love it that we can get new people on. So Erie Edits watching from Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us already. You see, some people know how to get in quickly. But yeah, just to a quick round of introductions. Niha, as you know, we said first time on Serverless Office Hours. Welcome. You're a product manager for Lambda. Tell us what you do and how come you are a product manager for Lambda. What landed up in that cool job?
Yeah. Hey, Julian. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to present here. Folks, I'm excited. I'm a product manager with AWS Lambda. Previously, I was with our AWS streaming organization supporting Kinesis and our MSK services. With Lambda, here I'm focused on event-driven workloads, whether it is a streaming services, Kinesis, DynamoDB streams, or SQS ESM. Today, I'm super excited to talk about some of our recently launched feature with many of my colleagues here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Niha. And next up, Vaibhav. Vaibhav's done a whole bunch of coding work as well for what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, Vaibhav, tell us about your journey to AWS and what we're talking about today.
Hey everyone. Thank you, Julian. Hey everyone, I am Vaibhav. I am based out of Atlanta. And I am with AWS Professional Services. I am a senior architect with AWS Professional Services, and I mainly support the healthcare life sciences customers over here. As Julian mentioned, I have worked on the pattern that we are going to share with you all today. So looking forward for that.
Cool, excellent. Thanks, Vaibhav. And next up, Nicole. Now we've got Niha's on the product management side. Nicole's actually a software development engineer, so you build this stuff for us as well. So yeah, Nicole, tell us what you do at AWS. Well, what parts of Lambda you're in, and how come you landed up at AWS and working on Lambda? It's always a cool journey story.
Yeah, for sure. So hi everyone, I'm Nicole, and I'm in event source mapping team, event polling, mostly like a polling team. We poll for Kafka, Kinesis, DynamoDB, and all those sources you can think of when you click on the Lambda triggers. And my journey, I used to be in ads team for a while, and then I was like, I'm looking for more challenging stuff. I want to go core infra. I want to try all those things. So I landed in Lambda, which is a really cool job. I get to see all those distributed system, learn all those stuff. It has been a really fantastic journey.
Cool. Yeah. And a decent amount of scale, I suppose. These kind of workloads in ESM, a few customers are using it to, move a little bit of data around.
Oh, yeah.
And last but certainly not least, Leandro. Leandro, are you warm where you are as well? Leandro's in Europe as well. I'm in London. London is normally cold and rainy. It is currently 31 degrees at 7 o'clock at night, which is unheard of. I'm in my sort of smallish office here, so I have a bit of a sweat on. Leandro's like, yeah, man, we just cool here. We're used to this temperature. So how are you feeling, Leandro? And welcome to Serverless Office Hours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julian. Thanks a lot, folks. So my name is Leandro. Some people know me as Leo. I'm from Brazil, but I'm based in Portugal. That's my funny story, how I landed at AWS. I was I'm maintaining PowerTools for AWS Lambda. I'm building PowerTools for AWS Lambda. Probably people from Serverless community knows about that because it's a quite popular toolkit or framework today. How can you call that? But my history, I was work as consultant before joining AWS and implementing PowerTools in the customers. And I'm a super fan of Lambda. And now I'm building stuff for Lambda. So that was super amazing. I've been here at AWS for almost 3 years. And it was super great challenges building this new utility for help customers to deserialize Kafka events on Lambda.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Jander. And yeah, not for the next 55 minutes, but in 55 minutes time, just go and search PowerTools for AWS Lambda. If you don't know about it, it's developer tooling that is just going to supercharge your serverless development. We're going to get more with that as well. But yeah, you're not allowed to do it yet. You've got 55 minutes to go. We've got to talk about this. And then seriously, please go and look at PowerTools for Lambda. So, yeah, quickly, I just want to mention something coming up in the future. If you're anywhere in India, go to Serverless Bengaluru 2025, August the 8th. This is going to be a fantastic day. You know, they are literally going to be hundreds of serverless enthusiasts who are all going to be descending. My colleague, Eric Johnson, who's been on Serverless Office Hours a gazillion times and is absolutely awesome. And a whole host of, product management people and engineers and every kind of person involved with AWS Serverless is going to be at this conference. And so it is going to be super, super good. I'm on holiday. I can't come, which is so annoying. But yeah, you're going to have to go there and tell me what it's like. So yeah, put this in your diary, sign up as soon as you can, because there are actually limited tickets. So it would be frustrating for you if you were to run out. So on to today. Niha, we obviously came out with a recent announcement. Yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah, we recently launched a native support for Avro and protobuf formatted events for Kafka event source mapping. Now, if you look and if you are familiar with the various AWS services, messaging and streaming services, popular format of the message or event is a JSON format. It's universal format, AWS, all the APIs support that kind of a format. But we have a peculiar system in an open source Kafka community. There, most of the customer use Avro or protobuf. There is a specific reason. Now, Avro and protobuf, if you don't know, are binary serialization and deserialization format. They are a lot more compact compared to a JSON format. Thus, their serialization, deserialization is faster. They support a robust schema capabilities. And those are the reasons customers utilize Avro and protobuf. And till today, before we launch this capability, customer has to do their more custom code in their Lambda function.
So we basically had you could always use protobuf and Avro before, but because it was a binary format, there was a lot of coding work to do that you needed to get from it, and basically you get the raw binary data and then had to figure out what to do with it. You couldn't do filtering, you couldn't do a whole bunch of stuff. So this new announcement is just making that all easier. Is that the sort of TLDR?
Absolutely. So many of our customers load our filtering capability that is available on both Kinesis, DynamoDB, and Kafka ESM for a long time, but that was limited to JSON format. And customer says, hey, I want a native capability for Avro and protobuf. That's exactly we delivered, along with the simplicity in their Lambda code that they had to do a lot of authentication and caching of their schema registry, bringing the custom library, a deserialization library in that custom code. All those things gone. That's in the past. Cool. Now it's simple configuration, and you get your data directly in your business objects.
I like it. Can you just put together in our minds, the link between the schema part of it and then Avro and protobuf? Because Avro, protobuf, okay, fine, it's not JSON, it's binary. But why do you need a schema? What's the schema part? Why do those two parts of the story have to fit together?
Oh, great question, Julian. Now, most of you know about JSON. It's a key value pair dictionary. That means the field name and the value both are in the same place. Versus in Avro and protobuf, there is a separation of a schema. It's stored in a separate place versus the actual data that's actually moving between the two systems. Now, because the schema are stored separately, usually the schemas customers store it in a file, and now they need to, in kind of hard coded, need to bring it into their application code. Or the best way is to utilize a centralized schema registry where you register your schema. So your producer converts your Avro data in using a schema that is registered. Schema can be version control can be maintained there from your producer, and this consumer application directly receives that schema again based on the schema ID that is encoded into your data. This allows compaction, faster serialization and deserialization, and thus we need a schema registry and a dedicated schema to support both filtering, schema validation for Avro and protobuf.
Okay, that makes sense. And just highlight for some people who may not know Kafka or just think of Kafka, oh, this is one of these sort of big enterprise service buses that's been around forever. I mean, Kafka actually isn't that old. I think it's only 10, 12 years old or something. I believe it was built in, from LinkedIn. And so people, I think, freaked out of like the enterprise service buses of the early 2000s. I'm giving away my age here. But, this was all kind of hard. And then, Kafka came along the scene and, loads of people, I mean, Kafka is massive, big sort of thing that people are using. It's open source, or you can use Confluent, or you can use Amazon MSK. So yeah, just give us a brief sort of highlight of why would people use Kafka in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the customers are building a real-time system with open source Kafka, whether for all kinds of a use case, whether it's a gaming purpose, whether it is a video streaming and entertainment purpose, for click-through and mobile application, including security and log analytics purposes. You can see finance is another, and healthcare is another place that customers are using all kinds of use cases for real-time analytics and real-time analysis with the open source Apache Kafka. Now, there are, as you mentioned, there are a few services, including our first-party AWS service, MSK, our partner Confluent Cloud, and also a lot of customers use self-managed Kafka just by downloading open source version of it, right? Whether on-prem or in AWS environment. Our capabilities with Lambda, we support all variants of Kafka. In exactly the same experience, irrespective whether you use a managed Kafka or a self-managed Kafka, right? And along with that, there is also variant of a schema registry. We have our AWS first-party schema registry called AWS Glue Schema Registry, and another great alternative is a Confluent schema registry. Customers use it. Confluent has done a great job also of open sourcing their schema registry, allowing customer to run it in a self-managed environment also. So now we support all, again, similarly, both managed and self-managed schema registry to allow every Kafka customer to utilize this awesome capabilities that we launched.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, Leandro.
Yeah, and the first time that I heard about the new feature that we were developing, I thought, hey, we are delivering the real cloud native experience, because now customers are producing events, they are scaling with Lambda, but now they are like going away for all the complexity to validate with the schema registry, decode the event. Now the customer can focus real on the business core, what matters for customers. So that's for me, and I listen that for a lot of customers, that this is the real cloud native experience.
Cool. Yeah. And the thing about Kafka, and in fact, streaming workloads, I don't think people realize they may need streaming workloads. And when they figure out what streaming workloads are, they're like, oh my word, this is unbelievably powerful, because it is huge, huge amounts of data with partitioning and sharding. And I mean, those are technicalities of it. But yeah, vast amounts of data, lots of efficiencies and doing things well. Cool. Excellent. Well, we have some people who've been joining us. We do have Pag, maybe. Sorry if I butchered your name. Hello from Hamburg via Twitch, and just watching over us. I think M. Figus is very interested to make sure that Leandro is doing a good show. M. Figus, I'm presuming this is the M. Figus who works on the PowerTools team as well. So thanks for joining us as well. Hello, seniors. How are you doing? Are we the old people? Potentially. Who knows? We did have somebody from Los Angeles before. But yeah, we've got office hours. We like to have demos and everything. So unless somebody has anyone else to bring, Vaibhav, should we just have a look at what this looks like? I think that's the quickest thing, and then we can sort of roll back and we can pick apart how this all works.
Yes, sure.
And look at the cool stuff.
Julian,
am I up? You want to share your screen and we'll put that on. Are you ready? There we go. Oops, we've got there we go.
Okay.
Cool. So Vaibhav, just tell us what page we are on first of all here, so people can know about serverless LAN patterns.
Sorry, I can't see you. So
no, that's fine. We can see you. I know you're on one screen, but that's fine. Yeah, we can see you. We can see the serverless patterns page is up.
I can't hear you, so I can't tell if you can hear me.
This is interesting. Let me do a message. We will try and I'm just going to send them. We'll see. We'll try and get Vaibhav back anyway. But actually, just before Vaibhav, while Vaibhav brings this up, Leandro, do you want to just talk about PowerTools for AWS Lambda and what that is in the bigger scheme of things?
Yeah, for sure. This feature, of course, can integrate with Schema Registry, can validate with Schema Registry, but some customers want to have after validating with Schema Registry, they want to have the original value without decoding that. So for some reason, because they want do some governance or whatever. So PowerTools learned on that because PowerTools help you with the Lambda developer experience. So when customers are consuming Kafka events on Lambda, either with ESM integration and validation or without that, usually customers doing that in on-premise or normal world, they have to deal with all the Avro deserialization. This is kind of complex because customer needed to understand the schema, needed to deal with schema evaluation, evolving, needed to deal with all the different libraries in Java, in Python, in Node.js, and whatever. And why not make easy to the customers that experience? So PowerTools landing on this new feature as a default experience for customer consuming Kafka events or Lambda. So can I show? Okay, Vibe will come back. So let me show my screen to talk a little bit about PowerTools. So
yeah, sure. And also, I mean, PowerTools is, it's not just a utility just for this Kafka kind of thing. There's a huge amount of functionality for large metrics tracing, observability, huge amounts of things, lots of different languages. So yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, PowerTools is available in Python, Java, .NET, and in TypeScript. We have a lot of utilities, so I won't cover all of them because the focus here is Kafka. But PowerTools, you can use the PowerTools, for example, to ease your experience with Logger in Lambda, Tracer, metrics, batch process, idempotency, and a lot of other stuff, utilities. So, but let's focus on Kafka experience. That's true. You can see my screen, right? That's true that customer consuming, for example, consuming an event on Lambda, for example. You see my screen, right?
Yes, we can. If you can zoom in slightly, that would make it a little bit easier for us.
It's better?
Cool.
It's better?
Yes, there we go. There we go.
Okay, so customer consuming Lambda, Kafka events on Lambda, they do like this. So, of course, I have some hacks here to help you with that. This is the shape of the payload that Lambda has on Lambda. So when Kafka sends an event to Lambda, any customer probably needs to do that. For example, customer needed to understand how to get the value. For example, and customer need to do event. Oh, I was expecting that my Amazon queue was completed but that's okay. So, yeah. So customer need to do that just to have the value. But now value is encoded in Avro. So customer needed to understand all the payload, and also customer needed to deal with all the serialization. Of course, I have other hack here. Just make it easy for me. So let me zoom out a little bit. So customer need to have all this code here just to deserialize a single event in Kafka. So that's here.
Yeah, because also things are base64 encoded as well, so it's a deserialization based on a schema, deserialization base64 binary format. That's a lot of code you got to write.
Yeah, and the customer needed to understand and need to deal with all of that. That's true that customer is doing that and it's working because Lambda is amazing. Lambda supports any kind of pattern that customer chooses. But why not to ease this experience? Why not we remove all the complexity, for example, deserialize an event or force customer to understand all this payload here. Hey, what means record? What means this one? How can I access value and stuff? So we bring with PowerTools a new experience for that. For example, I will keep this code here just to compare, or it's probably better to open a new one, and then I can switch my tabs. So let's consider this is that was the experience until before we release this utility, but let's use this one. Lambda handle 1. Let me remove all this code. So with PowerTools for AWS, PowerTools you can install using your package manager in Java Maven, Python PP, Node.js, NPM, .NET Nugget, and stuff. So using PowerTools, you just need to import the new utility from Kafka, and then we import it we import 3 classes: schema config, that will help you to define your schema. Oh, sorry. You import the consumer records. That's the common name that customer consume Kafka events in on-premise world. They use that. That's kind of interface to map the event with the kind of record, and customer just need to use that. Of course, this experience is, we try to keep the same experience in all the languages, but of course, we can have like a little bit difference because the language is specific. And in PowerTools, we try to make PowerTools idiomatic. I mean, things that make sense in Python, things make sense in TypeScript, and so far. So we can define a schema config here. So imagine that now customer are using, for example, Avro. So, and they wanted to deserialize this value here. So only value. Customer usually use keys as a primitive, but customer use a value encoded with Avro. So customer needed to define. Sorry, my autocomplete is not happy. Is not helping. So you define Avro value schema Avro, and then we can define value schema Avro. And let me copy this schema here. So we have the Avro schema here. Sorry, a tab here. And then what I'm doing here, I'm just defining that, hey, now you are consuming records that there is this shape of record using Avro encoded and the type of Avro. But now customer can define the handler. So event, consumer records, and context. And now customer doesn't need to know all this stuff here, like how to use the Avro, how the shape of event. Customer just need to decorate the Lambda with Kafka Consumer using the schema config that you define it here, and do that for record event.records. So print record value. When customer do that, PowerTools is taking care about all this stuff here. PowerTools take care about like parsing the schema, reading from the schema, decoding the value, decoding using Avro decoder, and then PowerTools will deliver to the customer the JSON decoded string for customer. So now customer can do, for example, this will be, in this case, the event is a shape of name and age. So if customer do that, customer now can do this one here, because now this is a dictionary. So you can see that we transforming all the experience that forcing customer to understand a lot of stuff in this one. And now you can ask me, hey, Leandro, how can I know all these configurations, parameters, values? So PowerTools has a huge documentation, complete documentation, where you show all the features and all the capabilities that you have in this utility. For example, how you can install, how you can define, create your cluster, how you start with like Avro messages, protocol buffers, and JSON messages. So PowerTools support deserializing Avro and protocol buffers, but also help decoding JSON messages. So you can use PowerTools for that. We have the same documentation with Python, with TypeScript, with Java, and with .NET. So Julian, if you can share the links of the documentation. So that's how PowerTools fit on this new feature, helping with the customer in the developer experience.
Cool. That is brilliant. And I mean, in the whole sort of meta narrative in this is Kafka's normally, in the big Java ecosystem. And Nicole's going to go into how some of the Polar works later. But and Vaibhav will do the demo. We'll get that hopefully going soon. But the cool thing is previously also customers had to build, their consumers had to be in Java because that's how sort of Kafka worked. Now with a sort of Lambda event source mapping in the middle, whether you use Python or Java or .NET or Node or, to be honest, a custom runtime or anything, okay, you wouldn't have PowerTools. But yeah, you can use your own, whatever programming language you want with Kafka, and that's a great unlock, because you could even have the same Kafka streams and have one of your teams in Python, one of your teams in Java, one of the teams in .NET, and you're ready to go, which is super cool. We do have a question from Alejandro Lopez. Thanks for joining us via YouTube. What about formatting numbers among the schema? Yeah, it seems really powerful. That was something you were showing that prompted Alejandro.
What Alejandro means about format numbers? For example, transforming float to int. I didn't get.
It's a great question, Alejandro. Let us know if you've got a follow-up question.
Nicole, do you have answer for this? I think we have done a lot of work on this particular aspect and how we take care of conversing what is the actual format that the customer has defined in their schema to make sure that we use that same numbers. Maybe you want to tell that story.
Yeah, that data type
Okay.
float point. There we go.
Yeah, so usually you define all those in your schema of like what kind of, say in the schema, you should have defined like this is a flow, this is an int, or depending on the schema you're using.
Yeah.
So when we are as a Lambda, when we pull, we will pull for your schema, which I'll go over later. And then we find a schema and we actually deserialize it into the desired formats. It can be a JSON formats, which usually we just do like the standard JSON. It's not like the, say, Avro compatible JSON, it's standard JSON. But if you want to convert back into your Avro objects with the schema, then we recommend using the source, which I'll go over more later. But yes, the formatting is defined all in the schema, and then we will be able to transfer into like the desired type. Right.
Cool, excellent.
Yeah,
See,
and
that's why
yeah.
we have the engineers from Lambda on the call, on the stream. Know the straight stuff.
Yeah, and in the PowerTools side, we respected the format that you define. So if you use the same schema to deserialize the schema that you produced the message, we honor the type. So probably it's not.
And then just quickly, schizophrenic web developer. This schema is using JSON schema. Yes, this was using JSON schema. It wasn't connecting out to an external schema, which we will show shortly. Vaibhav, should we give this a go and see if the demo gods are with us again? Can I show you the screen? Yeah, if you can just switch to the other tab and then or the other window, and then hopefully we'll be able to see you.
You should be able to see the serverless LAN pattern.
No, not yet. We've still got the link which we're all on. So
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you just bring up the other window, that's okay. We'll once it's shared as well, I'll be able to stick you on.
Okay, I think now it's good.
Excellent. We are there and ready to rumble.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about the issues earlier.
It's IT.
Okay, I quickly wanted to talk about this pattern that we developed to showcase the capabilities that we just talked about. At a high level, the pattern contains a MSK cluster and a producer Lambda function and a consumer Lambda function. The producer Lambda function will produce the message based on the schema that is registered in the Schema Registry, and the Kafka cluster will get the message in the topic, and the consumer Lambda function will get only the filtered messages based on the filtering criteria, and it will also take care of, the ESM will also take care of parsing the message as Leo mentioned earlier. So a quick overview of the pattern, like the code for the pattern is present in the GitHub repo, which is linked here. And as I said, like it basically gets deployed in two parts. You have an option to deploy MSK cluster or you can use a cluster that you already have. If you choose to deploy a cluster as part of this pattern, then you can use the CloudFormation template that we have provided here. The CloudFormation template takes care of deploying the MSK cluster, as well as it also provisioned an EC2 instance, which has some setup already done, namely installing Java and SAM and all other dependencies that are required, as well as it also takes care of creating the topic that is required for the test to go through. So once the CloudFormation template is deployed, we can use EC2 Connect to connect to the EC2 instance and quickly check if the Kafka topic was created successfully. And these instructions are there in the README. Like you can check if the file, sorry.
No, Vaibhav, carry on. I was just going to say, I think we don't often connect to EC2 instances on serverless office hours, but you do need to have something to be able to write to Kafka. You could use a Lambda function as well if you wanted to, but this pattern is actually really quick and simple. I mean, I've deployed it many times. Many people have to get this all, make sure it's all working, and even the setup of the MSK cluster, you can use the serverless one. It literally takes a few minutes to even try this out. So yeah, there will be a slight charge, but if you run this for 15 minutes, that's all you probably need. Super good way. So sorry, Vaibhav, I didn't want to break your flow, but showing how easy it is.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, and as I said, it's an option if the README has the instructions to be able, which will enable the users to be able to use this without deploying an EC2 or the CloudFormation template. But if they want to, this is something that will enable them or help the users to test quickly. And as I said, from the same EC2 instance, it is set up to also deploy the to deploy the SAM template, the SAM cluster into the AWS account. And if I'll quickly go to the CloudFormation to show all the resources that are deployed as part of the SAM stack. And as you can see, the main things that are deployed here are the producer Lambda function, the consumer Lambda function, and the DLQ, which is what we are going to look at as part of the event source mapping. The next I will quickly jump to the consumer Lambda function because there are two things I want to show here. One is the MSK event source mapping. And as you can see here, we have two things I want to call out. One is the filter, which basically in this example, we publish a contact object, which basically has a person's name, address, and zip code is one of the attributes of the address. And the filter says that only allow those objects through the event source mapping, which have the zip code that starts with 2000. And what you can also see here is that we have the Schema Registry associated here. And as part of the validation, we have selected the value attribute here, which ensures that the value is aligning to the schema. And the second thing I wanted to show here is the SQS, which is the DLQ. So in case any failures happen, like say any deserialization error happens, or if any other issue occurs, the messages will fall into SQS, the DLQ SQS. So that is where users can go take a look if they don't see messages coming into the consumer. So I'll do a quick demo. So I'm going to run right now, I'm going to run the producer Lambda function to generate some messages. So let's do that.
So you can either, from that EC2 instance, you can actually run this Lambda function, or just from the EC2 console. So this is a producer Lambda function that's just going to produce Kafka Avro messages. Cool. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So this is done. Let's look at the CloudWatch log for the producer. And as you can see, the messages were sent to the Kafka topic, and we can see the breakdown that out of the 10 messages that were sent, 4 were starting with 1000, and 6 were starting with 2000. And if we can go quickly take a look at the consumer logs, you can see that the messages have come through, and we can see that only the messages that have zip code starting with 2000 are being sent to the consumer Lambda function. So this is one more, and that's how the rest of the functions or the messages will be processed.
Cool. Vaibhav, can you just go back to that ESM configuration? I just want to pull out 2 of those things over there. When we're looking at the of the consumer, so when we're looking at this ESM configuration, that pattern, that filter before, you couldn't do that, because what would happen, because it was all binary beforehand, it would come through to all your function, and then you've got to write code in your Lambda function to say, only do 2000s, drop 1000, drop 1000. But every 1000 one that's coming along, you're paying for that and then having to write code to drop that. So this is why it's cool to have this, Avro and Protobuf as a native functionality as part of the ESM, because Lambda's doing this for you. You're not paying for anything. We'll get onto what you are not paying for, but you're not actually having to write your own code to do that filtering. And if records aren't being, if you get 100 messages and 1,000 messages, or 100 messages to process, 1,000 messages not to process, you're not having to do Lambda invokes unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me, I quickly wanted to show this code as well. Like, this is the consumer code, and if you can see, there is no check in this consumer code. Yeah, like all it does, it just expects the filtered message already deserialized, available to consume, which makes implementation extremely easy and
So
simple.
Vaibhav, can you zoom in a little bit? Just increase the font. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, this is I want to highlight that this code uses a PowerTool library with a Java code, right? We already gave the example and demo with a Python, but I want to highlight most of the developers in a Kafka community are Java developers. We brought in the same kind of a programming interface, especially the consumer records. If you see on a line number 19, use the PowerTools. So that's the same interface that you customer who have been using like Kafka Consumer, now they can use the same interface with a Lambda also. Now, and then directly they specify their string and that contact, their business object that is from Avro or Protobuf library based on their schema. They automatically get that. All the details about converting from a base 64, doing a deserialization from Avro bytes to this business object is done by PowerTools behind the scene. Now you directly get it, and if you look at the number 27 and 29, you just get that object directly, and you can again print it. You can do any processing as you want without worrying about the complexity behind it.
Yeah, so and look, there's a sort of portability aspect to this as well. If you do have a Kafka consumer using consumer records on EC2 on-prem in a container or something, you can just grab that code, move it over, and that's going to be much easier just to directly use in Lambda.
Oh, absolutely. This I'm super excited for that capability, right? Previously, customer who wanted to move to Lambda and benefit from a serverless capabilities, they had to rewrite the code a little bit, right? Understand the Kafka event, which is like event type and a schema that we provided from a Lambda for events, so Kafka event source. Now they don't need to learn about it. Just include the PowerTool library and start move your code, and that's it. I think it would be a few hours of work.
Excellent. We do schizophrenic web developer. Great on the questions. We love it. Does deploy SAM application write or cluster? They're basically two CloudFormation scripts. One is pure Cloud Foundation, which deploys the Kafka cluster and the Schema Registry, and then a SAM deploy, which then deploys the Lambda function. Because you can think normally in your organization, you'll probably have a different team that looks after MSK in your Glue or Confluence Schema Registry, and Vaibhav is then showing that MSK and Kafka connect. You just upload that to CloudFormation. I'm going mad. Uploading that to CloudFormation, and then that'll just deploy it as well. And then your second part is just deploying the SAM application, which is the producer and the consumer. And then quickly, just you don't use AWS PowerTools as a Lambda layer in your Lambda function. Leandro, do you just want to quickly explain the different deployment mechanisms of getting PowerTools ready?
We have PowerTools for AWS Lambda layers in TypeScript and in Python. So that's true that you can use the Lambda layers when using Python and TypeScript, but you don't have it for .NET and for Java because each language has your some specific stuff. So, but if you're using Python or TypeScript, you can go to our documentation when you see a public ARN layer resource, and then you can use that.
Cool. And then, Vaibhav, you're showing this is the SAM template for the consumer and producer Lambda function. Yes. And I know there's some pretty cool scripting stuff. When that EC2 instance comes up, it does some pretty cool grab the outputs from here, this from there, that from there, subnets, security groups, all that kind of stuff that you obviously need to connect to Kafka, and then just adds it quickly into your SAM template. So it makes it nice and easy.
Yep. Yeah, that enables the users or the users to quickly deploy the SAM stack so that they don't have to enter each value like VPC ID and such.
Yeah, but then also if you have your own Kafka cluster, you can just enter the you can just enter the values. It is just a VPC ID, subnet ID, topic. I think no, you don't even need the topic. Anyway, well, for the producer, you'll need more than the consumer. But yeah, if you've got your own Kafka implementation, this is quite simple to be able to plug that in as well. Nicole, I think we should have a look. And sorry, Vaibhav, do you have anything else you want to show in this part of the demo?
No, I'm good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Excellent. We can come back. But yeah, Nicole, over to you, because I know you've got some cool stuff to show of literally how this works a bit under the hood, which is always nice. I love it when we talk more about Lambda, how that actually works under the hood. So let me add your thing on. So yeah, it'd be interesting to talk about the Schema Registry part of it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm mostly going to talk about how Schema Registry work in the first slides, mostly because I can see when I was starting to implement this feature, it was really confusing to me. Like how do I even get the schema ID? Like, do I even get a schema ID in the streams, and how do I actually extract it? How can we provide this to customer, the deserialized version to customer? So in general, we can talk about how Schema Registry work, and say in this graph, we're seeing we have a Kafka streams, which is what is our topic always. We have a Kafka streams, and then we usually have a producer and a consumer. Producer is producing data into the Kafka, but with a Schema Registry, producer also need to configure a Schema Registry, which in the producer itself, it will get schema or register schema, and then send the data, original data, and serialize it with the schema before sending to Kafka. So in the Kafka itself, actually each data has a schema associated with it, which I'll show in the later slides. But then in some Kafka, it also validates schema ID. I think for Confluence, you can configure, I want to validate specific schema ID ranges and stuff. And then later in the consumer, usually if you're doing on-premise, you will have define your own consumer services as a whole. But for us, we are actually doing the polling job for you. So you don't need to worry about polling or getting it deserialized. So we connect to Schema Registry, and then we fetch the schema according to what the schema ID is in the message. And then we use the actual schema to deserialize it, and then send to your Lambda. And then you only need to put your business logic into Lambda. You don't need to worry about integrating with Schema Registry and the connections and authentication and such. We handle all the stuff. And then for us, we offer two kind of formats where you can get this data. So the first one is standard JSON formats, where if you want it to be very flexible, you can just do simple JSON. You know specific fields you want to fetch, you just get from JSON. In this case, you don't even need a schema or objects or even any such defined if you already know the structure of what value you want to get. And the second one is the source format. In case I see for a lot of Java customers, they do have the schema already defined, the objects generated by the Avro schema or protobuf schema already defined in the Lambda. You can also easily port it over and then choose sources, which we will send original data without the schema metadata in there, so that you can directly deserialize it into your business objects without worrying about connecting to Schema Registry as such, or using the Schema Registry deserializer.
Cool. So Jason, from JSON and source, just so I understand, is that there's I sort of see it as there's sort of three kind of options, or three pathways that you can go down. You can get the source stuff directly through from the event source mapping. So you can whatever the producer put in, you get straight through. But then you've got to write your own code to deserialize that. There's a whole bunch of work. Ta-da! PowerTools just does that for you. So the first thing is, if you want to use, maybe you've got existing code for deserialization, or you've built a better PowerTools. I don't think that's possible. Or you've got some other thing that you want to do. That's your option. So you can grab the source thing, use your own tool, or use PowerTools. Or if you know what the schema is, you can actually, the event source mapping is actually convert that to JSON, and then you just get the raw JSON data out, and you don't even need any kind of deserialization. Is that the sort of three pathways, or have I mixed something up?
So slightly different. So for the source, we actually don't have the schema included in it.
Of course.
So if customer need it, they can use any of the the standard Avro library or protobuf library. But PowerTools is it's already handle everything to you. You just need to get the business object. It's easier to use PowerTool. But as event source mapping, we wouldn't know what customer wants. So we provide two options. But usually if you use PowerTool, we will recommend customer to choose source for at least like say for Java and all those like strongly typed languages so that it can easily convert into the business objects.
Yeah, so that's a good point. For the strongly typed languages, you want to use source with PowerTools, and then maybe you've got an option if you want to use JSON for things like Node and Python.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and then I also want to explain a little bit of, this is what confuses us as a developer the most when first implementing it. So in the Confluence Schema Registry and Glue Schema Registry, they attach the schema ID into the data when sending to the Kafka streams. And this is, they're different, slightly different. So for Confluence Schema Registry, they have like a 4-byte schema ID and then magic byte is always there. And then for Glue Schema Registry, they have some compression and a schema version ID as well. We handle the extraction of the schema ID, fetch the schema, deserialize it. We send either, if you choose a source, we send the Avro content, like the blue part only. We don't send all the other information. Those will be as part of the metadata fields if you use the Lambda envelope. But yeah, so this is how the schema registry serialize the data and then send it to streams, and we deserialize it. Yeah.
Leandro, wasn't there a I don't want to say last minute scramble, but a big understanding at a very late night so PowerTools can understand all this kind of thing? Because I was looking through the Slack thread and I was like, magic bytes, what's going on? And yeah, I mean, it's the bigger story is how PowerTools basically solve this for you. Otherwise, you have to figure this out. Like, oh, one of my schemas is having a magic byte and a schema ID of 4 bytes. Another one has got a header version and compression. You know, that stuff you're going to have to figure out on your own. And so, you know, the Lambda team and then PowerTools work this all out. So, yeah, Leandro, you can open the curtain a bit and tell us how you get this across all the languages as well.
And especially when customer is using protobuf. So when you're using Confluent and using Glue, they have different ways when you have complex schema. For example, imagine that you have 2 classes inside the same protobuf. For example, person and, I don't know, user, whatever it's what. If you have like a nested class, Glue and Confluent deal different with that when you create a message list. So that's true that ESM do all the work, remove magic bytes and like validate the schema. But when you send source, that means sources still have some metadata from Confluent and from Glue. So that was like one day before releasing PowerTools. Hey, you are ready? Let's go. We can do that. So. And it like last minute bug. So we spent like a day and with help for Nicole and all the Lambda team to find a solution for that. But this was specifically for protobuf. Avro works a little bit different, but was a fun story to tell when you work with the open source and large scale utility and stuff. But,
that is a story. PowerTools sorted it for you. You know. That's okay.
I want to add that, right? The team, PowerTool team, Leandro and Nicole and a lot of our engineers in Lambda worked hard on a last few days to solve this problem. But the most important is the consistent experience. There are so many complexity. There's a difference between a schema registry, how Confluent stores Avro, how Confluent stores protobuf, how Glue schema registry stores protobuf and JSON and Avro. And there is all kinds of combinations and permutation exist. But ultimately, when the developer is developing with this capability, is a consistent, irrespective whether it is Avro, protobuf, Glue schema registry, Confluent, they utilize the same developer experience, irrespective. And we handle the complexity with the ESM, whether it's a ESM and a PowerTool as a joint collaboration. That's very important and super excited to see that delivering the unique, consistent developer experience to solve this complexity.
Cool. Thanks, Niha. And Nicole, back to you. There was just a side channel we needed to talk about.
No, I think that's a very, very good topic to talk about. There's a lot of hassles in the end. So cool. Let me quickly also dive into how Lambda ESM uses Schema Registry to help deserialize your records for customer. So we do need authentication because for Schema Registry, some Schema Registry is in VPC. And for the Schema Registry which in VPC, we urge customer to be in the same VPC as well. We will be using this same ENI to access to the resources. So they need to be the same VPC as like a small call out if you're using self-managed Schema Registry. But for us, the flow is first we authenticate. We fetch authentication from the secret manager. Everything you store needs to be in secret manager. And once we get the authentication methods, such as like you're doing basic auth by providing us API key and password, we make sure that it's safe and secured and stored in a secret manager. We fetch it, and then we pull events from your Kafka event source. And then we fetch schema according to the schema ID. We deserialize it based on the choice you want to source or JSON. We deliver to your Lambda based on the configuration. So the first one is for self-managed. We also support Confluent Cloud Schema Registry, which, yeah, it's the same thing, the same configuration, but it's a Confluent Cloud, so it's not in the same VPC anyways, but you can configure VPC for it. But yeah, it's the same story. And then for Glue, we use private link to access to your Glue, and then through it as if we're in the same VPC as you. And then we also fetch the schema accordingly, and then deserialize it, send to your Lambda accordingly.
Yeah.
Nicole, just to mention like all of this, I mean, basically Lambda is running a big polling fleet on your behalf to be able to poll Kafka. The polling fleet isn't running in your Lambda function or something. This is a fleet that runs in the Lambda service. Yes, it needs some networking stuff to be able to connect your Kafka cluster, but it's basically going to poll your Kafka cluster, get the records, and then send it off to your Lambda function. So yeah, don't think this, none of this polling is running in your Lambda function. It's a separate, fleet that Lambda is running at ridiculously high scale and ridiculously high performance to be able to do this for you.
Yep, correct. Yeah, so I have some API examples here. You can also find all these information in the public doc. We have a lot of detailed examples for like create, updates, and a bunch of other, like say, for example, for this example, I'm showing how do you create event source mapping through CLI. If you also want the filtering capability, you can also configure the filters and patterns. So for Schema Registry, usually we definitely need a URL where we can access the schema for. This is for Glue specifically. So for Glue, we don't do basic auth or MTLS or stuff like that because we connect through private link. You just need to make sure that the Lambda execution role has the permission for us to access to your Glue, and that should be sufficient.
So there's a network connectivity and then just IAM permissions that you need.
Yep. Correct.
Cool.
And then there's a JSON. You can choose JSON or source. And then also for Kafka, usually it's unique from all the other streams. It has key and value where both can be connected to a schema registry. So you can also configure that. You can also configure for both. So this is just an API example. And there is a small recording for the console experience. Can you help changing it to the other recording video source? I can just play it.
Yeah, give that a play. I had one up as well.
But while we transferring, I can also briefly talk about for Confluence, it's slightly different. For Confluence, we don't have private link as such, but we do support so for Confluence, there are a few authentication methods they support. So no auth. If you're in the same VPC and you're kind of like have some confidence in the security, you can do no authentication, which meaning you don't need to provide access configuration. But there's also basic authentication where you give us username, password, or API key, API secrets. They will all be securely stored in the secret manager. And then there's another one is MTLS. If you want like more the TLS connection to be very secure, you can also configure MTLS, which you will provide us with the certificates and then the password and key, the password in the same secret manager, and then we will access it. There's also examples online talking about those. Yeah.
Okay, I think I've got the demo going on. Oh, I've got to remove something else. Why is it not letting me?
Oh.
Something else. There we go. I'm looking at the wrong one. Looking at the wrong place. You would think I've done this before. So let me click on play. We are back there.
Yeah. So for this one, we support, you can do either self-managed Kafka or the MSK. And then the one thing to note that to enable this feature, you need to be on provision mode, which you have to first click the provision mode. And then you'll be able to configure Schema Registry, where you need to provide the Schema Registry URI. You also need to provide the authentication model. Authentication model is only for Confluence. And then also the secret URI. I think the screen froze a little bit. But yeah, and then for us, we only support HTTPS for secure connection. So for whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you have a certificate in the server at least. And if this is private certificate, you need to provide us with the encryption, which is a certificate stored in the secrets. It's still a secret. So overall, we want to make sure that our service is very secure and make sure that you're not leaking any information, and we're still deserializing your data. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Excellent. Rajesh Pandey comes up with a great idea. Thanks, Rajesh, who also works in the Lambda team. Do you do schema caching, Nicole?
That's a good question, Rajesh. Yes, we do. So because now we have this like polling task running for you, we actually do schema caching whenever we fetch a schema the first time. It will be cached into our service, so you don't need to worry about, oh, my Lambda only run for 15 minutes and the cache will be gone potentially. For us, we do cache it as long as you keep using this schema. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Niha, all of this runs on the provision mode, which we actually haven't covered. So you need to enable provision mode first. Can you just give us a quick overview of what provision mode is?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we launched a provision mode in November 2024 last year to enable customer to control how many event pollers that they need to have to support their busty and unpredictable Kafka traffic, right? In a real-time streaming applications, the traffic goes up and down depending upon their end users' usage, whether the data is coming from the IoT devices, the mobile applications or web applications or financial data. Customer want a kind of a performance guarantee, whether it's a latency, whether it is how fast and their filtering can work. For those kind of stuff, they want to control the number of event pollers that they would like for their ESM. And this is the provision mode capability allows customer to set a minimum number of poller and a maximum number of poller. And of course, in between, depending upon the traffic, our Lambda ESM scales up the event pollers as the traffic grows, right? This is the a paid feature depending upon the number of pollers that customers are using based on their traffic pattern. And of course, the minimum number of poller is the base cost for the customer. Now, the schema registry capability and filtering for an Avro and protobuf are offered exclusively to the provision mode customer, because we want to make sure that customer with a unpredictable and a busted traffic gets the same performance irrespective whether they are using Avro or protobuf or JSON.
Cool. So yeah, so provision mode is, your ESM a bit on steroids, and also because we keep the pollers running, whenever you need them in the background, and so obviously that means we can cache schemas and do everything. And so yeah, if you're doing some sort of basic Kafka kind of stuff and you don't need a lot of high throughput, you don't need schema, you don't need Avro, all of this kind of stuff, you don't need to use provision mode. But yeah, if you want some high throughput, more bandwidth, a certain number of pollers that you want to be there all the time, and then this new functionality, provision mode is your friend. Yeah.
Yeah, but just one final observation. That's true that customer not using schema registry integration. Of course, you can use schema registry integration because you can have more governance and all the enterprise. But if you're not using that because you are like running, I don't know, a small Kafka workload and stuff, but you are still producing Kafka messages with Avro or protobuf, you can use the PowerTools on the Lambda side, because PowerTools will take care about all the stuff. Because now the message doesn't have the magic ID for all the complexity that Nicole demonstrated that for. PowerTools works with both scenarios, with ESM integration and without ESM integration.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. As Niha said earlier, it's like a matrix of different all capabilities. Yes, no, doing this, whatever kind of thing. So hopefully this all simplifies it. If you're using schemas, use provision mode and the ESM. Whatever you're doing, just use PowerTools, because that, all the stuff, all the complication we've talked about just gets taken away. Everybody, thanks so much for your time. A whistle-stop tour, lots to cover. I love the focus on Kafka that we're doing. Niha, Nicole, and Leandro. Vaibhav has had to drop off, but the tech gremlins didn't get the better of us, so we got a cool demo. So yeah, thanks for all the hard work on this. We've got a great pattern. We've got all Nicole's work in a team that she's done beforehand. Leandro has done a huge amount of work with PowerTools, and more stuff to come with PowerTools. And yeah, Niha leading the charge with his excellent Kafka knowledge. So thank you, everybody. Super appreciate you all joining us.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Excellent.
Thank
Just
you
let
so
you
much.
know, next week we are talking about AI ops with agentic AI. So that's going to be a whole kind of thing. And remember, we've done 4 weeks worth of Lambda hackathon. The week after that, we're going to be doing the final. We've had like over 3,700 people doing the Lambda hackathon. So it's been super impressive. We'll talk about that and even more next week. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.